purpose of this little discussion right here is to identify key points to help you when looking at a firearm to say whether or not, or when you're holding it and assessing it, whether or not it has these elements that are going to promote your ability to shoot it versus just looking cool. Because there's a lot of rifle stocks that look bloody cool, but do they deliver the goods? Well, that takes a little bit of digging. So a flattened forend. Now, Gunworks does it eloquently in that it's like angular on the side, so it's not big and wide and bulky. It's just enough flat so that when you put it on a shooting bag or on a bench or on a log or on your buddy's shoulder or on your backpack, the gun doesn't roll left or right. It stabilizes so you're not fighting it. Okay. Number 2, the negative comb. So what is a negative comb? Well, in its simplest, we're going to contrast it to the Monte Carlo stock. So the Monte Carlo stock is the classic Weatherby Mark V stock, where the butt pad seems to be like kind of low relative to the barrel. Okay. So this, if people think about this, if you grasp this concept, it's going to help you control recoil and muzzle rise and figure out what guns work for you. So no offense to Roy Weatherby, whoever invented the Monte Carlo stock. I've never actually looked into that. But if you think about a firearm this way, when the explosion happens in the chamber, right? Gas goes in one direction, out the barrel. The gun goes in the opposite direction. Okay? Now, the greater the differential between that torsion point where that kinetic energy happens in the chamber and whatever the gun is butting up against, the greater that differential, the more likely that firearm is to kick upwards. So think about it. I don't know if anyone can see my hands, but if like the business happens here, so there's backwards pressure here, and the butt pad is like down here, when this pushes back, it's going to kick this way.
For sure. Yeah.
Right? Whereas like if the butt pad and the anchor point on the shoulder is here, when this comes back, it comes straight back. It doesn't really kick upwards. Okay. Seems simple, but there's so many stocks that don't do it that way. They just don't. And a negative comb stock, not just the Gunworks Climber or Magnus or Verdict stock, a lot of stocks out there that have it. The benefit of it is it puts the brace point on your shoulder more in line with where the kinetic energy, where the back pressure happens in the chamber. So the barrel doesn't kick up. That's called muzzle rise, right? There's a few factors that create and others that dissipate muzzle rise. Muzzle rise it's a bigger enemy than raw recoil when it comes to shootability. You take something like a 416 Rigby, okay, in a properly designed firearm, it has pretty immense foot-pounds of recoil. But those guns, those dangerous game guns, are designed to push backwards. Why? Because when you have a several thousand-pound critter coming at you, your follow-up shot is kind of important, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So negative comb, very important. Also, that negative comb, that upward arcing buttstock. Okay, so when a gun recoils backwards, if a stock is flat on your face, as the gun comes backward, your face rides it. Your face is not going to move back as quickly as the gun does. There's a big jolt, and then you kind of catch up. But if your face rides that butt pad, the cheek comb, there is a greater sense of recoil. It feels like there's more recoil than there is. Okay. With a negative comb, your face kind of comes off the gun. So there's a decrease in the perceived or felt recoil. It's subconscious. They've measured it in foot-pounds, no, that motherfucker's kicking the same amount, but it
Mhm.
feels less, right? So if it feels like less recoil versus feels like more recoil, well, if something feels like more recoil, it's more likely you're going to flinch. If you flinch, that means you're not going to shoot well. If you don't shoot well, you ain't going to shoot much, and you're not going to get better at it. So
Yeah, and
that
you're gonna
negative
flinch in the
comb,
field. Yeah.
yeah. So that negative comb does two things. It reduces muzzle rise inherently, and number two, it reduces perceived recoil.
Mhm.
Okay. The steep toe line. Now, the toe line is the underside of the stock. Okay. So some guns have a very flat toe line. Others have a very steep toe line. What's the advantage of a steep toe line? Well, when you're using a rear bag to support your gun, or like, a rolled up jacket or something to support the rear of the um, of your rifle, that is more important than having a bipod. Okay, having a properly supported butt pad underside of your stock that you can press down into and secure your reticle wobble is more important than a bipod any day of the week. Okay. And if you doubt that, just try shoot a group with your bipod and a rear bag. Now remove the rear bag and try and free hold that gun just on your elbows and see what your group looks like. Then get rid of your
Mhm.
bipod, put it on anything, some fucking books, whatever, and get a rear bag, and you'll see right away which one's more important. But anyway,
Yeah.
proper placement of your rear bag is supposed to be right below where your face is pushing down in a perfect world.
Yeah,
So
for
if you have a
bench rest shooting or whatever. Yeah, for
yeah,
sure.
so if you have a steep toe line, small moves in that rear bag result in big moves of your reticle. So you can
Mhm.
achieve changes in target acquisition quickly with small moves of the rear bag. So flattened forend, underside of the forend, negative comb, steep toe line, and then the grip. So if you study a gunwork stock, you'll notice that the palm has like what looks like a really deep, aggressive cutout. Okay. And on the climber, again, if there's any bench rest guys here, they're going to be like, I like pistol grip. Yeah, pistol grip is probably the most natural way to shoot, but this is a hunting stock, and it's in a hunting application where sometimes you have to shoot offhand. Okay. But it has a very aggressive cutout in the palm grip where your hand goes. Think about it, compare it to like a Tikka stock. Tikka stock is kind of homogeneous around the grip. There's very little contouring there. There is, but it's not very aggressive. So that deep contouring accommodates the fattest part of your hand, your palm. It sinks in there. So when you get behind the gun and you grab it, and if you look, like your knuckle, like your middle knuckle, your like main knuckle, your wrist, and your elbow are more in line. And there's less like the more kinks you put, if you're shooting like this, there's more tension on this on your trigger finger, right?
Yeah.
Next, it has a hybrid thumb shelf. So you take like a classic Macmillan pistol grip stock, it's got a beautiful thumb shelf. When you're holding your hand, it's like this. So for those that don't know, um, it's a pretty simple exercise. Just hold your hand out, hold your finger like it's in the trigger, okay? And hold your thumb vertically, like straight up. Not like straight up, but kind of up in the direction like this, okay? As though
Mhm.
you're holding a pistol grip firearm. Now, very conscientiously rotate your thumb around as though you were gripping a stock. So now it's like this. And you're going to feel tension tighten in your trigger finger. Like you'll see. And actually, if you do it and you're not conscientious, the tip of your finger is going to want to curl in.
Yeah.
Right.
Or
So
want to
when I
wrap
do
it.
this,
Yeah.
and when I do this, like my finger wants to just, because of the tension of my tendons, wants to pull in. So in the
Mhm.
field, what does that result in? That results in shots that tend to be high and to the left, misses that are high and to the left. Why? Because you're hooking the trigger. You pull the trigger
Mhm.
this way, the muzzle goes that way. It's the
Mhm.
opposite reaction. Now, a lot of people are, especially when they're getting into it, they're like, that can't result in much. So 1/10,000th at the muzzle is an inch at 100 yards. So fuck yeah, it does. It results in a hell of a lot. This is a game of not inches. This is a game of hundreds, thousands, tenths of thousandths of an inch.
Mm-hmm.
So that grip is usually the first thing people really notice when they grab a stock like a Gunworks climber. Okay. Then I mentioned that it's got a thumb shelf, but it has a hybrid thumb shelf. It's a skinny thumb shelf. It's not a big flat plane. So that allows you to rotate your thumb around in the conventional way of controlling a gun. Most people standing offhand, shooting offhand, don't feel comfortable with their thumb up. They want to wrap it around the stock so they feel in control of the firearm during recoil. Well, the climber allows you to do both.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So again, flattened underside of the forend, steep toe line, negative comb, contoured, aggressive, cutout, hybrid thumb shelf. Okay. These are all things that all the best designed rifle stocks now are striving to either copy or kind of perfect. But I'm here to say, and again, there's going to be people disagree with whatever, but the climber stock does it better than almost anything else.